Okay, everybody, welcome, welcome, and welcome. Again, it's a lovely Monday. It's April 21st, so we're going right into just about the last week. We're creeping up to the last week and change of the month of April, which typically means something pretty significant. And you guys have heard me talk about the pre-summer movement a bazillion times, and I am definitely going to talk about it again because we have some super awesome, super excellent setups in the works here that we're going to be looking to trade. But as always, just a quick little reminder, guys. As a reminder, I've been getting asked about this a lot, and I probably need to fix this page a little bit. If you go to daytradersfx.com and just the regular website, daytradersfx.com, you'll see this view right here, which is get a 5-day free trial, all that stuff. If you click on 5-day free trial, it takes you to this page right here. And this page will give you the option to, the first option here is the live trade room along with everything else. The live trade room is definitely an upgrade, and it's definitely more expensive than the other option. But remember, this includes the live trade room, $79 a month. If you keep scrolling down, there is the website only access, which you get all the recordings here, plus you still get the mobile trade alerts. And you get all the access to the trades posted on the website. And that option is only $37 a month. And so a lot of people have asked about that and asked if there was another option besides the live trade room. And so if you just scroll down a little bit more, you'll see that right there, and you can get, again, the recordings. You don't get the live trade room, but you get the recordings, and they're posted pretty quickly thereafter. The live trade room is definitely a big benefit. You get to ask questions, get feedback, talk about trades you're looking at, get my assessment on various different things. Excuse me, but if you're just, if you just want to get a little extra guidance and you want to get some extra good trade ideas, you can get that option right there, $37 a month deal, and done. Okay, so there's that. Let's go and have a little quick look at all the calendars here. You can see that this week has been, we have all this Easter Monday stuff. I swear I've never heard of Easter Monday in my entire life, including as early as last year. I don't remember all these countries being closed for Easter Monday, but apparently you can see right there, actually that's a bad example. How about New Zealand? In observance of Easter Monday, closed for Easter Monday. I always thought it was Easter Sunday, but apparently it goes right on into Monday. So a lot of Europe and Australia and New Zealand have been closed on Monday as well. So there you have it. So it's been a little bit of a quiet start to the week, and it was definitely a quiet end of last week. Nothing too much moved the last probably 2 days, Thursday, Friday. There was just almost no movement because everyone was kind of going into the Easter holiday. So it's been a quiet couple of days, but things are about to pick up again. Yeah, exactly. Leftover party for sure. But coming into Tuesday, we have some pretty good news announcements coming out. The U.S., we have existing home sales. That's always one to watch. Australia, we have some CPI, a little bit of Chinese news. Wednesday is a heavy news day. French and German manufacturing PMI. We have the MPC votes for the UK, which is their interest rate votes and their QE votes. Retail sales for Canada. Home sales again for the U.S. More central bank stuff, another expected rate hike out of New Zealand going from 2.75 to 3%. A lot of things happening there. And then Thursday we have a bunch of news again, except for Thursday we have a little bit of bank holiday once again in Australia and New Zealand. And but there should be plenty of activity all these days to kind of keep everything interesting and going. And remember, I love UK retail sales, so we'll probably have a live trading event for this, and we'll trade the news. We'll get some pending orders posted, and we'll look at getting in on this UK retail sales, which will be Friday morning, bright and early. So just keep that in mind. That'll be all coming up this week, so it should be an exciting week. Okay, we are currently short in the euro dollar. You guys can see my notes here. I just updated everything. But in our notes, we're short euro dollar. We entered at 139.00. this may have been the best entry in the history of any entries ever. You can see this is 139.00 right here is where we got short. It went up to 139.05 and it has not come back to that area since, and it even took a nice little extra dive for us just several hours ago and ran back down another 35 or 40 pips. And so it's just staying down there. Everything's looking great on this euro dollar. We're just over 100 pips profit on our trade. And remember, we've locked in profit on this one. And if it bumps us out, we'll gladly take that and we'll get short at a higher price. But remember what I said about this euro dollar. I'm in this thing until 131.50. I'm just hanging on until 131.50, and I think we're going to get it. So nothing too much to report right now. Except for we're in the trade, we're short, everything looks great. And remember, our 200 moving average here on this daily chart is just, every day we get a little bit further away. We're 141 bars since the last touch. We got pretty darn close right here, but just not close enough. And then remember, this is pretty important. We have a nice rising wedge on euro dollar right here on this weekly chart, and you can see it on the daily chart as well. And that rising wedge is pretty excellent. We have a missed weekly pivot all the way down here at 127.50. You can't see it because I don't have a far enough back look here, but 127.50 we have a missed weekly pivot. Everything's looking good for a massive sell-off. And those typically will happen at the beginning of May. Those will start, and so we still have several days. And that kind of goes into your that goes into your question a little bit, Dan, of what might happen with this gap. And yes, the euro dollar could absolutely be filling this gap from last week. If we zoom that out just a little bit, we could fill this gap from last week, which is about 20 pips, and that goes up into the 138.80, 90 area. That could take us out of our trade at break even, which I would be totally happy with because I would just re-enter. And so this would be a good time for that gap to get filled because again, those pre-summer movements really start, they don't always have to start May 1st, but they typically don't start any later than May 1st. Sometimes they can start early April, late March, mid-March, good grief, they can start any time, but they almost don't start any later than about May 1st. And that pre-summer movement is a huge run, a huge push, and it's usually good for on a low end 500 or 600 pips, and on a high end we can see movements of 800, 900 pips from the beginning of May to about mid or end of June. So over a 2-month period, we see some really, really excellent movements from that pre-summer run. So I'd love to see the euro dollar just spike up there one more time, maybe give us a double top or something, and then just head straight down. And I could absolutely see that happening. And if it does, and if it stops us out, be totally ready to enter this trade again. Hopefully at a higher price. Hopefully we can get in a little bit higher than 139.00. But if we can't, then we'll get in right around 139.00 again. Dave, Dingus Day sounds pretty fantastic. So that's kind of our situation on euro dollar. No major change. We're just waiting to see if this thing spikes up. If it spikes up, everybody, and again, this goes to everybody. If you're not in the group with us, if you're not in this trade with us, if this thing spikes up again, anywhere that we get in around 139.00, give or take a couple of pips, if we have to get in a little bit lower than 139.00 or a little bit above 139.00, any of that is good. Being short euro dollar just below 140 is not what I would consider a risky trade. So that's an excellent little situation there. Jeff, the missed daily pivot 413 on euro dollar. It's let's see. Well, and that's a good point right there as well. Daily pivots can definitely go a good long time without getting hit. They're kind of strange like that, which is why I typically use weekly pivots a little bit more. But that would be a perfect little opportunity, a little spike up to take that daily pivot out and fill that gap. So that just kind of strengthens that case. We know that gaps get filled pretty aggressively and usually fairly quickly. So that daily pivot could also get taken out when that gap gets filled. So, yep, good point. Good point. So we're just looking for any spikes up. We're still in the trade short. We're going to stay in it until 131.50, and we'll be adding to our positions as well. So by the time it gets there, we'll literally be rich. But in the process, let's just stay in this trade, and if we get back up to that 139.00 area, let's be ready to jump right back in it again. Yes, and Ray, that's a good question. If you're not in this trade already, I definitely would say wait for some pullback. This is not an area that you want to be looking to sell, to get short right here. You want to let this thing pop up just a little bit, because I bet it will. So and I will be updating as we go as well on good areas to start adding to our positions. So we're definitely going to keep a very close eye on that and be ready for some of that as well. Okay, that's euro dollar. Pound dollar has been kind of interesting. If I had to take a wild guess what I thought the pound dollar might do, we have two pretty important pieces of information or news coming out on the out of the UK in the next couple of days during this week. Retail sales, which is a big deal. Retail sales is a big mover for the UK. Number one. Number two, we have the votes on the interest rates and so on. And so that's going to affect the UK quite a bit. I would love to see this thing just dip down into about 167.50 area, and I could absolutely see that happen. If this gets down, if we get down to 167.60 or 50 area right there, I'd expect this thing to bounce and continue back on up. Yeah, Steve, could be, definitely could be. So if this hops back up just a little bit, remember on the daily chart we've got a nice rising wedge. The pound dollar is crazy overbought, but I think it could just get up there a little tiny bit more. We have some very important news coming up, and I think we could just have that one more spike up. But remember, we're very, very, very overbought on this daily chart. Long little run, 200 plus bars on the daily since the last time it touched a 200 moving average. Tons of missed daily, weekly, monthly pivots down below. This thing's just perfect, just ready to go. And I actually don't hate it right here at this 16800, but with all the important news that we have, I think we'll have a nice opportunity to see this thing just kind of dip down and bounce up a little bit higher and give us an opportunity to get in more around like 16900. I think we're going to be able to get in just below 170 on pound dollar. Ideally, in a perfect world, I would be short pound dollar just below 170, and we're already short euro dollar just below 140, but we might be able to get in a little bit higher, like 139.50 from our 13900 entry on euro dollar. So just below 170 and just below 140 on euro dollar and pound dollar would be the best shorts ever. Those would be ones you would just get in and forget about them and let them do their thing and be done with it and just let them ride. So we're not in the pound dollar yet. I still, again, 167.50 dip would be pretty likely, and then a continuation up into 16900 would be my best friend. Now we're at 16800 just about. We're just a hair below 16800, so we're not looking for a huge movement, but I think we are going to get just a little bit more to that upside there, and if that happens, that is absolutely where we're looking to get in. Now we do have this nice rising wedge which we have to keep an eye on, and so I'm going to just kind of keep an eye on price action over the next little bit and see if we have some good confirmation. And to be honest, I don't even know totally what I'm looking for yet, but I want to see some additional price action that tells us that this is a good area to start getting short, and we may do that at the top of this rising wedge from the daily chart. So we may have entries anywhere between 168 and 16900, but ideally I'd like to get in above 16900 short pound dollar. So again, this is long-term direction for anybody that needs a more of a day-to-day play. It will be done. I record 2 sessions a day and post them on the website, and you can absolutely get a free trial and kind of see how that works at daytradersfx.com. Okay, so that's pound dollar. Aussie dollar, I'm watching this Aussie dollar. We talked about the fact that the Aussie dollar needs to come down and hit, it needs to come hit this 200 moving average. I'm not super actively trading the Aussie dollar at the moment. I'm just more keeping an eye on it. This daily outlook right here, it's been running up pretty nicely. It has not retraced to the 23% fib, so we can't really be looking for a bigger retracement to the bottom of the trend line. I'm just kind of watching this thing and seeing where it might be headed. A shorter term trade would be trading the break of this trend line. This is retraced just a little bit, and a break of this trend line could get us started back in the upside direction again. You can see that this trend line goes all the way back to some highs of, that's about week and a half or so ago, and it's just really rode this trend line. It's just been riding it all the way down. A bunch of tests right there, and then it's just right back in this area here. So I'd keep an eye. And again, I'm not super actively trading the Aussie dollar, but I would keep an eye on this kind of thing right here. We have this daily pivot around 93.50-ish area. Anything above that, I think this Aussie dollar might be ready to rally and continue on up. So look for opportunities to get long Aussie dollar above 93.50. I think that's going to be a nice little area for a breakout and a continuation up. So above 93.50 on Aussie dollar. And let's just trade it up into some of these targets here. We've got some missed pivots, 9400, a missed daily pivot. We've got another missed daily pivot, 9425 area. We've got some weekly pivots that are up there. So just kind of keep that in mind on the shorter term scale. And on the long term, I don't really have that much of a feel for the Aussie dollar. I don't know what I think I want to see happen here. So just look for any opportunities to get long above that 93.50 and make sure that it can stay above this trend line. If you do get in above 93.50, don't let this get back down below that trend line. We want to see a good clean break, a good run above this trend line and above this weekly high, and a nice continuation up. And I think we'll see that. I don't think it'll have too much trouble staying bullish there. So that's what we're looking for on that Aussie dollar. Just a quick note on dollar CAD. I'm still looking for any opportunity to get short dollar CAD, but remember, it broke out of this rising wedge. It did not hit the weekly pivot or the 200 moving average, which is now just continuing to get further and further away. 154 bars on the daily chart. That is overbought for sure. So I'm just looking to see if we're going to get a little more confirmation on maybe a right shoulder, a little more in line with this potential left shoulder here, and be able to get short a little bit above the 110 area. I'd like to see like 11100, 11150 to start getting short dollar CAD. Now, this picture can and will change, and we got to keep an eye on this, and we'll be watching the dollar CAD closely this week, but I would like to get short up around that 11100, 11150 area, and hang on to this one for a little while. But again, we need to watch price action on this one and just see how it goes and see how it plays out. As far as Aussie pairs go, so Euro Aussie, Pound Aussie pairs are just kind of sitting and waiting. The one thing I do want to point out especially is remember, on both pairs, Euro Aussie, Pound Aussie, we have big head and shoulders patterns, and this head and shoulders pattern is playing out, and we still have a pretty big anticipated profit target. Remember, from this head to the neckline's almost 800 pips, so from that neckline on down, we can expect a profit target of like 14200, and you can see we're at 147.75 area. But the one thing that's pretty important about this Euro Aussie, and a very similar picture on the Pound Aussie, is the 4-hour chart is definitely on the oversold side of things. You can see the last test of the moving average was 140 bars ago on the 4-hour chart, and so I'm just watching this trend line. Again, I'm waiting for just more upward movement before we start shorting, but this could be a nice little opportunity, getting long above about 148.25 area and just targeting that 200 moving average. There's probably 100 pips in there to grab. So just watch that trend line on the 4-hour chart, Euro Aussie, or on the 1-hour chart, whatever you want to watch it on, and look for that movement up into that 200 moving average. The 200 moving average is around 149.50 area. So I think that's probably going to get hit before we see any more continuation down, and I think we're going to definitely see some continuation down on this Euro Aussie. So I'm super excited about that, and I'll continue to update about this. But for the short term, just look for a little break and a little run up to that 200 moving average. There should be 100 pips in that little movement for the moment. So keep an eye on that. And then basically the same picture on the Pound Aussie, but probably a little less of a trading opportunity. Pound Aussie, on the long term has a very, very positive run, and I think we're going to at least get down to 170. You can see we're just below 180 right now. I think we're going to get pretty easily into 170, but we need to get this thing turning around just a little bit. It is running up to touch the 200 moving average as well. You can see it's about 80 pips away, so it will probably push higher, take out that 200 moving average, and then we're going to look for just some simple price patterns to start getting short pound Aussie again. But again, Euro Aussie, pound Aussie, Aussie dollar, I'm just a little tiny bit on the sidelines right now, but tomorrow that could absolutely change, and it probably will. So you know, we're just kind of watching those for the moment, and we're preparing ourselves for the bigger movement. We have some really excellent setups on euro dollar and pound dollar, and some decent short-term ones on this Aussie dollar as well. And some of these other guys right here, like Euro Aussie, pound Aussie, they need just a little bit more before I get excited about jumping into them. We're still keeping our eye on CAD, Swiss franc, and Aussie, New Zealand, but they're not totally on top of the list right now. They're just kind of semi there, and I'm just watching those. So we'll kind of continue to talk about those as the week goes on. One I do like quite a bit, and this basically is just the opposite view of euro dollar, is we have this very, very nice falling wedge on the weekly chart of the CAD Swiss franc, of the dollar Swiss franc, and this is a great little setup right here. I'm still looking for a little bit of a spike up on euro dollar. I think that could happen, and that would give us a spike down on dollar Swiss franc. Any kinds of entries we can get on this pair closer to 8,700. You can see it's at 88.50, so it's 150 pips away. If we can get back down about 100 pips, I will probably just jump into this trade and let it ride on up with a profit target. We have some nice missed pivots up here around 91.50-ish area. I have to go back and double check, but I'll just let that thing ride if we can get back down to about 87.50 to 8800 area, right in that general spot, is where I'll be looking to get long dollar Swiss franc. So just kind of the opposite of what I'm doing with euro dollar. One more spike up on euro dollar, one more spike down on dollar Swiss franc, and we're jumping into these guys and letting them just run for the big bucks. And then last but not least, and feel free guys to type over any pairs that you're looking at, there are two pound pairs that look pretty interesting to me. One would be the pound dollar. Pound yen, not pound dollar. The pound yen is not crazy overbought on the short term. We're 95 candles since the last touch on the 1 hour chart. But we have this nice little gap right here that I think could be worth something. There's about 100 pips in there. Possibly. So I'm just kind of watching this kind of this kind of stuff right here and looking for a fill, looking for a move down into probably 171.50, 171.25 on pound yen. I think that one could be interesting. I'm definitely not looking to get long pound yen by any means. We do have a nice little trend line here, and if it breaks above that, that could be interesting. That could be ready to go. But at this point, the pound yen is so incredibly overbought on this daily chart that I just couldn't, in good conscience, get long this pair just yet. I mean, it would really take a significant break of that trend line to get me really interested. At this point, I'm more looking for opportunities to sell the pair and at least sell some, get into some of this correction and ride it back down. So keep an eye on this pound yen. And another pound pair that I'm watching pretty closely is pound New Zealand. This pair's got a nice little setup right here. Now remember, we have some interest rates and so on coming out for New Zealand tomorrow, I think, and everything's expected to raise and so on. And so this could be a good one to almost get into beforehand, unless there's some big crazy surprise. Which again, I'm not recommending jumping into this before the interest rate announcement because those are always crazy. But this is a nice little setup. This is a rising wedge on the 1 hour chart. Once again, we've got this nice gap on the 1 hour chart. This is just a good short-term trade. I just wanted to bring up a couple of short-term trades, and this pound New Zealand is definitely one of those. If we break out of this low right here, which is our perfectly tested ascending trend line of this little rising wedge right there, we break that low, And we've got 100, just over 100 pips before we get down into the weekly pivot and the 200 moving average. And I think it's going to have a pretty easy time getting down there. And so I think there's a nice little 100 pip sell opportunity. You can see this thing's run right up to the 200 moving average, and it's really struggling at that 200 moving average. And you know, and along comes this nice little rising wedge right here that's telling us we might have a very nice little trading opportunity to get short. This pair, probably, you know, probably at the break of 95.70 would be a pretty good one. We're at 95.90, so about 20 pips below current market price, and trading this on down into about 94.75 area, I think is a good opportunity on this pound New Zealand. So keep an eye on that. There's a really nice little open space to get down to that 200 moving average, and I think we're well overdue and ready for that movement. So that should be a nice little run. And then Glenn, yeah, the dollar yen. Dollar yen's kind of the same situation as some of these other yen pairs. I'm looking for some correction to eventually happen here. We still haven't touched a 200 moving average in a super duper long time on dollar yen, and so, you know, I'm just looking for this to press a little bit higher, give us some opportunities to get in closer to some of these highs and start shorting. I don't necessarily see any major entry opportunities on this pair just yet, but you know, we'll kind of continue to watch it. It's going to be pretty apparent with some of these yen pairs as the very first part of the week goes, what we can expect on the yen pairs in general. So we've got some good pound yen, euro yen, Aussie yen, dollar yen things to be watching. So yeah, we do have that big support on the daily chart, and it's coming off that pretty nicely. Absolutely. So yeah, I think the dollar yen is worth keeping an eye on. I'm not in it. I don't have any major trades planned for it yet, but I definitely will keep a very close eye on this and just kind of see where this thing goes in the coming couple of days. But great setups, guys. We have some great things in the works. We're nicely short euro dollar. We're looking for an opportunity to get short pound dollar. We've got a quick little buy opportunity on the Aussie dollar, getting long above that resistance. Waiting on that dollar CAD. Remember, euro Aussie has a nice little potential trade at the break of that high. That one's looking pretty good. And then our pound New Zealand pound yen pairs are also looking pretty fantastic as well. So I'm going to update these in the notes. I'll make sure to post all the details, and the recording will be up very shortly in just a couple of moments, and the notes will be updated. And those are going to kind of be the path that we take going into this week. And of course, this will be updated twice a day. So remember, you can get a free trial at daytradersfx.com. Just click on the join free trial. And if you scroll down on that page just a little bit, remember you can get the cheaper membership that does not have live trade room access, but it has all the recordings that I post twice a day on all these market analysis, plus all the trades you can see. So that's kind of what we're looking at, and we've got a really good course to start this week off with. Remember, we've got just a couple of days left for this month, and big pre-summer movements typically do not happen any later than May 1st. So May 1st is just days away, and we see we see some big movements coming up there. So so you want to make sure you don't miss out on those. There's going to be thousands of pips to be made through the month of May and June, and very likely through the month of July as well. So hope you guys are ready for that. I'm excited about it. We've got some excellent setups, and we're just going to jump in on those and see where it all goes. So questions, comments, guys? We'll take it from there, and I'm going to get this recording posted, and I'll answer a couple of questions for you all.